Thank you, Brick. Abby Strauss, our recording secretary.
Good evening, everyone. I very much enjoy being involved with the Historical Society. I will just say one quick story, which is about 2 days after we moved in, Jason and I walked down to the Historical Society and asked about our home. And Rebecca was there, and I left with a whole packet of information about my house. And that was not what I was expecting within 10 minutes of arriving. So I was thrilled when Ralph and Alan asked me to join the board. I do love being secretary, and it's great to see all of you.
Thank you, Abby. Our treasurer, Donna Vicina McGinley.
Hello, everyone. Donna McGinley. Been going on my 3rd year now as the treasurer. I can't say that this past year has been a lot of fun, been a lot of worries, but it's a great board and I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Thank you, Donna. Barbara Bartlett. Is Barbara not with us? Margie Not Lord.
I see Barbara with us, but she was not unmuted. So we should go back to her. Oh, she doesn't know how to do it. Okay. Lynn, can you unmute Barbara so she can speak?
Okay. It's not letting me unmute her.
Okay. Well, I'm Margie Not Lord, and I've been on the board for a couple of rounds and even maybe 20-something years ago. So it's a great board. It's a great town. It's fun to be involved, and we have fun. It's a big thing. We really want to recruit some new members and more board members. So I hope some of you that are here tonight might consider joining us as volunteers or members or board people. Come on aboard.
Thank you, Margie. Alan, are you there?
Yes. I'm
Introduce yourself.
Alan Lord. I'm the very past president, way past president. I've been on the board for as long as I can remember. And I appreciate all the people that are on it now because they're all faithful servants for the Historical Society. And I also ask if anybody else wants to be involved. It's a great board. Thanks.
Thank you, Alan. Shall we try to get back to Barbara? If not, it's Lynn's turn to introduce herself.
I'm Lynn Clark. I'm the executive director of the Historical Society, and I live next door in Hopkinton, but I've worked in Warner for a lot of years because I used to be director up at the Indian Museum for a while. And I've always admired the Warner Historical Society, so I was very pleased to say, sure, I would apply for the job here when Rebecca retired. And Rebecca and I have done work together for decades, so it was a natural and easy fit, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay, I just want to make a few brief remarks regarding the year past. I think that when we met for our annual meeting last September, we were full of enthusiasm for the kinds of things that we normally do in a given year. And we had to shut everything down, as did everybody. And I think that we really scratched our heads about how we were going to be able to meet the challenges of a nonprofit organization that depends on attendance at activities and membership drives and sales of tickets for prizes and the kinds of things that we do every year, and primarily the barn, which is, as any of you have been to a Saturday opening, it's a crowded little place. It's a wonderful place to shop, but it's not something that we can do now. We are hoping that we'll be able to have, we're actually planning to have mostly a yard sale coming up in October to reopen the barn and see how that goes. We struggled. We had some long-term friends of the Historical Society step forward with financial help in some ways to meet some obligations, and we also had the executive director working hard to secure money from outside. And as a result of having gotten the New Hampshire Humanities Cares Act grant and the PPP from the federal government loan through Sugar River, we were able to essentially carry on a year without much activity. We miss having had a train exhibit in the museum. We miss having everybody coming and going from the barn. We simply miss people. And it's great to be able to meet here in this fashion, but we are looking forward to the day when we can do it in the town hall. And that's pretty much to conclude my initial remarks. I would like to just acknowledge a couple of people who are serving on the board this year but are leaving us. A fellow who was on the board a very short time, Tom Joseph, came to us thinking that he wanted to become involved in an organization in town, and he picked us. Thank you very much, Tom. But as the time went on, he felt more comfortable doing volunteer work rather than serving on the board. Partly, I think, because his work entails doing a lot of video meetings, and to be saddled with another video meeting on a routine basis was overload. But Tom is going to stick around and continue to volunteer for us, and is going to be debuting something that Lynn is going to announce a little bit later. Sally Matheny has been on the board a couple of years. She's been around the Historical Society many more years than I have, and continues to do research, is currently working on updating of a town history. And then last person to leave us this year is Molly Wyeth. She has been a volunteer in the barn for a while, came on when we had a vacancy to coordinate the barn, and agreed with Penny Sue Corser to share the responsibility of managing the barn and recruiting volunteers and making schedules and all of that. She is going off the board, but will continue to be responsible for the barn. If you have gotten the email electronic version of our newsletter, you see that we did have a lot of activities this year. In spite of the fact that we couldn't gather, we were able to have the author series proceed mostly as planned, although virtually. And we're looking forward to having it back in the town hall as soon as we can. I'd like to call on Donna now to give us a report of finances.
So I first wanted to start off by just thanking everybody for all your support and generosity that you've given us during these uncertain times. It's been amazing, and we are just so fortunate to have the community support that we do. We're very grateful to everyone. And it was pretty amazing to see what our bottom number was for this year, knowing that most of our fundraisers were not going to happen, our big ones. So I would just like to point out, excuse me, that our memberships have increased this past year, which is wonderful. And we've actually collected $575 more this year than we did last year in dues, which is just amazing to think about. And this year we budgeted $6,000 and we ended up collecting $6,065. So again, can't thank everyone enough for their support during these times. And we were also aware that our businesses in town would not be able to support us the way that they normally do. And in reality, we received great support from our businesses. So another reason to be thankful. So our bottom line for this year is positive $248.50. And a lot of that is from Lynn's efforts to obtain the $10,000 humanities grant, which will cover all of our expenses from May through August. So that was a huge help. And then we were also able to get the PPP loan, which is going to cover payroll for the $4,900. So we're so blessed and appreciate Lynn's efforts to getting that money in for us. And then you can see Lynn just put up some charts. This is the first year that we're able to do this, and they still are a work in progress, but we just wanted to show where we are as opposed to what we budgeted and what we actually brought in. And if anyone wants numbers, if you didn't get them or didn't print them out, I'd be happy to go over anything that you would like to ask about. But it's just unbelievable to think that our barn, especially, that's our biggest moneymaker, and we had budgeted 17,200 and we ended up with $8,182. So that alone shows you just how important our barn income is. And other than that, we've tried to cut costs wherever we can this past year since March. And I think being able to install the new boiler that was so generously donated by one of our members has definitely saved us on heating and probably electricity as well, from not having to run as much. So we have been lean, and we just can't say enough how much the community has supported us. And then as far as our budget for 2021, we've pretty much kept it pretty similar to what we tried for this year, hoping if the barn sale, yard sale works out and we can do more of those, or praying that we get a vaccine and more people are willing to come out and be in small spaces. We'll just play it by ear. There's just too many uncertainties right now to even know what the budget is going to look like. But so we've just tried to keep it pretty close to what we had. Other than that, I don't have anything else to say, but I'd be happy to answer anyone's questions if something needs explaining.
Okay, if there if there are no questions about the budget, we would call on the membership to adopt the budget. And so if you all could unmute yours devices, we will have a vote. And I will entertain a motion to accept the budget as presented.
So moved.
I second.
Budget has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please say no. Hearing none, the budget is adopted. Now, I'd like to go on to a recap of last year's annual meeting. Abby, could you present the minutes from last year's meeting? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. You should have received a copy of the draft minutes from the September 26, 2019 annual meeting in your email. At this time, I would like to ask if there are any additions, omissions, or corrections. Okay, hearing none, I would like to call for a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Having been moved and second, all those in favor of adopting the minutes as presented, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Please say no. Hearing none, we have adopted the minutes from last year's meeting. I'd like to move on with the nominations for officers for the coming year. And they are in the following order: for President, Ralph Elwell; Vice President, Brick Moltz; Recording Secretary, Abby Strauss; Treasurer, Donna Vizina McGinley; Director for 1 year, Barbara Bartlett; Director for 1 year is vacant, and we will hear nominations from the floor for that one momentarily. Director for 2 years, Margie Knott Lord; Director for 2 years, Julia Bodnarik; and Director for 3 years, you can pencil in the name Caleb Parsons. The next director for 3 years is currently vacant, and then the position of past president held by Alan Lord. So if we have anyone in company who would be interested in serving on the board, this is your opportunity to speak up, either for the single-year vacancy or for a full 3-year vacancy. It's awfully quiet out there. Could I have a motion to accept the slate of nominations for the Board of Directors for 2020, 2021?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second it.
And hearing no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. We have a slate of officers for the coming year. Thank you ever so much. Lynn Clark, you're on.
Muted. Oh, there we go.
There we go. I'm unmuted. Well, this should advance to the next slide. And it's not. we'll try a different one. Hold on.
Hmm, interesting.
I'll see if I can get this one to behave. There we go.
Yeah.
So my remarks were going to be basically showing all the wonderful things we were able to do this year, even though we were closed for a good part of the year. Starting at our last annual meeting, we had Caleb Parsons, who is on the left here, directed a short play for us, Enter Dora, Exit Dad, which was in honor of New Hampshire ratifying the 19th Amendment. It was the 100th anniversary last September when New Hampshire ratified the amendment. So there was a short play written by Freeman Tilden, who lived for a time in Warner. And that was a lot of fun and something very different, I think. In October, Rebecca and I did the first Black History bus tour in conjunction with the Black Heritage Trail of New Hampshire. And we were joined by director Jerry Ann Bogus, who filled in some of the context of Black history while we were speaking of the specific people who live in Warner and taking folks all around to the sites. And this is the Poor Farm Cemetery, where we stopped on one of our stops. In November, the exhibit came down, the 50th anniversary exhibit came down, but then we filled the Upton House with art for the weekend. New Hampshire Open Doors, where we have lots of local artists come in and show what they're doing. Also in November, this was at the town hall, we did the kickoff for our railroad exhibit project. So every few years we get together with the Muse Group, which are just local museums and libraries and historical organizations in the area, and do a project. So we had chosen the railroad, and we spent a few years researching and getting ready for that. And we have a kickoff event at the Warner Town Hall where people show you what they're thinking of doing for the year. And we also had a song written specifically for us about, and I'm blanking on his name, I think it's Carl Beverly, wrote about when the railroad opened between Concord and Warner, and there was a horrific fatal accident, but he wrote a lovely, actually, a lovely song about it, and then recorded it with his band and donated the CDs for us as a fundraiser. So that was a very nice kickoff event. And then we have in Warner, of course, the Festival of Trees, which we participate in, and our holiday shopping. And this is, we also announce the raffle at our holiday shopping events, the raffle winners. And we will be doing the raffle again this year. And if I can learn how to do it, we'll try to live stream the drawing, because we might not be all together at the Upton House. We don't know yet. But the raffle tickets will be in the mail next week, or you can order them online. In February, Rebecca did another wonderful ski train talk. She found new photos and had new wonderful things to say. And then the pandemic hit. So what we did is we closed down for a bit, closed to the public, but we were busy. We started saying, well, this is a very historic occasion, so let's collect up all we can, so 100 years from now, our descendants will have a bit of an idea of what was going on, and maybe a little bit more personal than we got with some of the 1918 pandemic stories. So people, you've been sending in your photos and stories, and it's wonderful. The kids going to school. There's in the upper left here, here's one of our early town history meetings. Once we decided it was warm enough, we didn't have to meet over Zoom. We could go sit outside, socially distanced with our masks on, and talk history and philosophy and Warner history specifically. But this was Memorial Day, very empty streets. These are all photos that our members have sent in to us. And keep sending them because the pandemic's still going on. So keep sending us your photos and stories to preserve for the future. So we had our railroad programs lined up to do, and we realized we couldn't obviously meet at Warner Town Hall. So Rebecca and I learned how to use Zoom and did 3 programs about Warner during the railroad era in a shorter amount of time than we would have normally. But I think we pulled it off, and we had people attending the Zoom lectures that were from, well, one is far away, Ireland, but people certainly from out of state. It's a very popular topic, the railroads. So in July last year, the Black Heritage Trail of New Hampshire had organized several towns across the state to do a reading of Frederick Douglass' famous speech, "What to the Slave is Your 4th of July." So we didn't do that in person this year, so they got together with New Hampshire PBS and asked the organizations who were involved, and we were one of them, to find a few people in your town or that could do some of the reading. So I asked Brick and Laura, Brick Moltz and his wife Laura Russell, and this is Gabe Nelson, who you may have seen a couple years ago in the Warner History Walk, and he was also in my Hopkinton Cemetery Walk this past year. He's a wonderful young man and did a very impassioned reading. And so hopefully next year we'll be back in front of Town Hall doing it in person. And we did the Tory Hill Author Series online, and most all of the authors had a strong enough connection or weren't too afraid to give it a try online, so we went ahead with it. And I have to say that we didn't feel we could charge the normal amount since we weren't meeting in person and getting fancy desserts, and you couldn't actually see the author face to face, so we charged less money. But we were able to be successful because of the generosity of the Sibley Wilkins Trust Fund and Pelletieri Associates, and there were other people who gave at pretty much their normal levels, and I listed them all in the annual report. So we're very thankful for them. And so here's what some of the things look like. Joel himself is in the corner here. Joel Christian Gale, who was a graphic novelist. So that was one of our firsts. Not only were we doing it online, but we had a graphic novelist. And his talk was just really energized and wonderful. And Susan Ware spoke about, again, in honor of women's suffrage, and brought up some stories you've never heard before. So that was fascinating. And then our last program, we had both Rebecca and Adie Rule, mother and daughter team, and they're just so warm and wonderful. And I think I said this in the report, that my favorite part was when it got dark out, Rebecca just grabbed the flashlight and lit herself. So we worked through any technical difficulties. It was great. So what's coming next? Well, there's a big question mark. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I can share with you some things we hope will happen. We know this will happen. The barn sale is going to have a yard sale, and I know people have been dying to get back to the barn sale. So this will be out in our driveway, socially distanced, masks required. You may even have your temperature taken, and they'll ask you all the questions you get asked when you go to the doctor. But it should be a really nice event. And hopefully, if we still need to do this and come spring, we'll work out all the bugs and do it again next year. So that's Saturday, October 3rd, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the rain date is October 10th. We obviously did not put our railroad exhibit in Upton House. We will do that. I will put it in there because it's just too good not to do that. But in the meantime, the Simon School folks called and said, hey, can you guys put an exhibit in the school? They have a couple trophy cases in the hallway. And Rebecca and I said, sure. So we went and did that because it's their 150th anniversary. And when we started talking about all the possibilities of what we could tell the folks at the Simon School about their history, we decided one exhibit was not enough and called them back immediately and said, can we have it for the year? And they said, of course you can. That's great. So Rebecca and I, and Linda Hartman does all the mounting of the photos for us. We'll be changing out that exhibit as the year goes, as we go through the year, to have different topics and just share this wealth of information. And the calendar, the 2021 calendar, will focus on the Simon School anniversary. And don't forget, we're still doing the railroad. So we will put the exhibit in the Upton Chandler House. Hopefully we'll be able to let people through, even if it's a few at a time, or we'll figure something out so we can share all of our wonderful research with you. And then the big surprise was one of the things I thought, I was like, well, how do we engage people if they can't come in to the Historical Society? And so we're looking to putting some things online. I started putting the exhibit online, and there's an introduction up there, and I'll do some more of that. But we wanted to engage families as well. So Tom Joseph and Kelly, his wife, is a teacher, and they said they'd love to help do something. So I said, well, how about a scavenger hunt kind of thing? So they put together this wonderful, it's almost like a mini exhibit where they have all kinds of information, lots of photos, and some nice, easy to see facts about the different railroad stations, maps, so you can go visit them all. So you can do it online, or you can go visit them all, or some hybrid of the two, and then you can take a quiz, and there's a prize at the end. So there's a great game called Ticket to Ride that I've been playing a lot with my family through the pandemic, where you build railroads across the country. It's a lot of fun. So this is the first time people are hearing about it, and if you want to take a look, this is the site to look at. And who knows what the future will bring, but we'll keep doing things online if we have to, and we'll do whatever we can to get back into the Upton Chandler with our exhibits. And I also wanted to thank people for being so generous this year. I was keeping track of not just the membership, but the annual fund that came right in the midst of the pandemic. And we made, it was pretty much, in line with what we had brought in last year, just a tiny, tiny bit less. But people have been very generous, and it has not gone unnoticed, and I really thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. I just want to take a few minutes, because I think that we'll be having some people joining us for Porter's talk a little bit later, to share with you that if any of you have been involved with nonprofit organizations or organizations of pretty much any kind, periodically it is helpful to take a break, sit back, think about what our purpose is, and make some plans for the future. This has been a good year for us in that regard, because we've really been forced to think about what it is that we do to contribute to the town of Warner, to the people who are concerned and interested in its history, and to think about how we could better do what we do, and do things differently if we can. So one of the things that I would like to open the discussion now, to people to tell us what it is that you value about the Warner Historical Society, and just speak up, and we will record your ideas, and that will go into the soup that we're building to make our long-range plan for the next 5 years. So the question is, what do you value about the Warner Historical Society? Unmute your microphones and speak up.
My name is Nick Clark. I live on Kearsarge Mountain Road. It's been a couple of years since I've stopped in and done a little digging on my property, but knowing that we were settled 200 or however long ago, 1770-ish, and I can check out the history of my property a little bit more is something I've appreciated.
Great. Next day. We just got a note about somebody who was missing the bake sales at the elections.
This is Kathy Carson, and I would say that the Historical Society serves as the community center for the town between or among the bake sales for the political events that we have, the election days, the barn sale, the museum. It's one of the few places in town that everybody has access to. And I value the information that they gather on the history too.
Thank you, Kathy.
I see that Jason Labby has joined us. And I was, hi Jason, I was hoping you might give a voice to how you've appreciated the opportunity to be involved.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, I know it's taken me quite a while to complete this project with the windows at the lower meeting house, but again, it's a labor of love. There's quite a bit. There's quite a bit involved in it, and this year has been extraordinarily busy for me, way more than any more years. So, of course, I have a bunch of new customers that have come on board this year, along with doing the windows. But like I said before, I am pretty much to the last window at this point, and I would like to think that I'm going to have that very last window up within the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's been an absolute joy and a pleasure doing the entire project, doing the meeting house, doing the windows, the shutters, the whole thing. It's been a blast. It's taken a lot longer than I thought it was going to, but again, I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. So either way, if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But before I stop talking, I definitely want to let everybody know I'm making a small video of the procedure that I've gone through to do each one of these windows and the sets of shutters. It's quite a substantial project from start to finish. Each set of windows, which is 40 lights, which is to say 20 panes per actual sash to make a set, is about 100 hours, 120 hours a piece. And it's just been, again, it's just been a lot of work, but it's been a blast to do the whole thing. And I'm just so happy to be involved in such a big project. That's it. And my wife has something to say. Please, Elizabeth Labby.
I just wanted to say that we have had people come in and offer classes and talks to students about the Warner history, and I have to say it was wonderful. One of the best times that we ever had with my group. So, and the barn sale. Oh, that's my favorite. That's all, and I'm really thankful for all you guys do for Main Street and keeping it up and being so accessible for all of us. Thank you.
She's just fantastic, isn't she?
Just mute it. Just mute it.
Do I have to mute it? What if they want to?
Thank you, Jason.
Hi, I'm Chris Hager. I'm actually not a resident in Warner. I'm a part-time sort of seasonal resident in the area. But the things that I've really appreciated about the Warner Historical Society has been your research and scholarship that go into all your programs. It's always very impressive. And all the partnering you do with other groups in Warner to really bring everybody in together, and that's very unique. I belong to a couple other historical societies, and I don't see them doing the sort of amazing things I see the Warner group doing. Also, I certainly appreciate the dedication you have to preserving the architectural history in the buildings that you own or work with in town. But you do much more than the other historical societies that I'm involved in. And it's certainly, I appreciate it. And it's a tremendous organization.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
You know, I would add, the Kathy Carson again, I would add just one other thing, and I wrote a message to Lynn about this. Even when we get past COVID, I'm assuming there will be a time that we get past COVID, it's really nice that the Historical Society has gone online and sort of gone cyber, because we can involve people in some of our projects, like the gentleman that just spoke that said he's really not from Warner. And I've seen in the railroad programs, a lot of people who have moved away. It's just a really good way to include that community that maybe not physically here. I don't know how hard it is for you guys to put on, but it's really nice to see.
Well, that's a prompt for me, Kathy, to invite people to buy gift memberships in the Warner Historical Society for the folks who no longer live here, so that we can in fact keep in touch with people and they can keep in touch with us. So a membership is not expensive, and a gift membership is something that could be valued for some time to come.
And to note, a membership also gives you a discount coupon for our museum store. Sweatshirts and t-shirts, things like that.
Postcards.
Mugs. Calendars.
Ornaments.
Calendars, right?
Calendars, ornaments.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have an appreciation that they want to give?
All right. I thought it was great how quickly people recognized that this pandemic is someday going to be looked at as history, and immediately started saving and collecting items that show how very different our lives are right now as to what they were a while back. So it's great that we'll have a presentation for some later years to show people what it was like during this period.
Very
Good thinking ahead.
good.
Next year is going to be important historically because that was when the great tornado came through town, starting over east of Lake Sunapee, and I mean west of Lake Sunapee, and powering across there and into Warner and several other communities. And I'm fortunate that I live right next to a cemetery on Pumpkin Hill where several of the victims of that tornado are buried. So that was back in 1821.
Oh, no kidding. Huh. So there was a big tornado in 1821, really?
There was, yep.
Oh, wow. And it hit Warner, obviously. I mean, you just
Warner
said.
hard, yes.
Wow. A lot of victims?
I would say less than 10, but
That's still a lot. I mean, for
several
Warner.
victims.
Gee whiz.
Yeah.
Jack Noon wrote a book about it, which we carry in the museum store. And maybe we should get him to come back and give his talk again, because I found the book fascinating.
Oh, no kidding.
Jack
Yeah.
said that he is going to come to the cemetery here at the 200th anniversary of the tornado and be there at that time. So
Oh, wow. That's a riot. Hmm. Well, that tornado we just had, what was it, a couple of years? Was it a couple of years ago or just last? No, I think it was 2
Last
years
summer.
ago. Yeah. I mean, I never heard of a tornado up this way. I mean, that's outrageous. And actually, I did a job for a gentleman on Route 103 who had gotten hit by a tornado, the one that happened 2 years ago there. And then I guess apparently there was one a month previous. So he got one on like April 31st and then again May, whatever that was that it hit. So he got double hit, which is, that's crazy for New Hampshire.
well, you should take a look at Jack Noon's book. It's well worthwhile.
I'm sorry, did you say Jack Noon or Jack Noonan?
Jack Noon.
Jack Noon. Okay, yeah, I'll check that out. Wow.
I think our local bookstore has it.
Like bookends?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Okay, I think that concludes our business meeting. I would entertain a motion to adjourn the business meeting, and then we will reconvene for the talk very soon.
I
Super.
make a motion that we adjourn.
And a second?
Second.
This is not debatable, so we will adjourn.
What, no discussion?
No doubt.
Nope.
No-
Not debatable.
Awesome. All right. Have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason.
Oh, no problem. No problem at all. Thank you so much. Okay, off.